Good evening, everybody. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Von Rudenberg.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Canestrino.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sims.
Here.
Councilmember Battaglia. Mayor LaBrus.
Here.
This meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6, et sec, notice having been published according to law, with a copy on file in the city clerk's office and a copy posted on the bulletin board in City Hall.
Thank you. Would everybody please rise for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. And with that, we'll go right to the city manager for the agenda, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and invited guests. Tonight is the Committee of the Whole agenda for October 24th, 2017. First is a discussion and an update about the rent stabilization board. It was unknown to me, because I had no case or anything that involved the rent stabilization board to have any issues. Unbeknownst to me, I did not realize that we did not have a current and active board. Jim Magan had fielded two complaints from people that thought that they were unfairly treated because they had their rents raised. So he responded to those two, which finally kicked in the thought process that currently the Chapter 134 Rent Stabilization Board and its requirements for the city is that they hereby create a rent stabilization board which shall consist of 7 members and 3 alternates, all residents of the city of Hackensack. The members of said board shall be composed of 2 landlords who own dwellings in Hackensack, 2 tenants who are not landlords or homeowners and who are not agents or employees of landlords who rent units in dwellings in Hackensack, and 3 public members who are neither landlords nor tenants. Said alternative shall consist of 1 tenant, 1 landlord, and 1 public member. Right now, Al Borelli is our rent stabilization officer, but that's really the only thing that we have in place. We have an attorney that was selected for the board, but I don't think ever activated because I don't think there's anything in the budget for this. So I'm going to sit with Jim Magan and also our city attorney, and we're going to come back to you folks and reestablish this board and put them in, because obviously the issues of rent, the cost of the city are
Right.
going to be challenged by some, whether right or incorrect. We at least need to have due process and a process in place for these people to go and complain. And obviously, that board was established to hear those complaints with another party, not the mayor and council. So,
And I'm all in favor. I know it kind of went defunct, this rent stabilization board. It's hard to get people to get on it. I'm all in favor of having it. But that said, is it a state requirement to have a rent stabilization board? I'm not sure.
Well, there's no requirement to have a rent control ordinance.
Right.
So, you know, presuming there's a rent control ordinance, I'm assuming, and I'm not too familiar with the ordinance, that that board has certain responsibilities in order to enforce the ordinance. There's no, as far as I'm aware of, state law that covers rent control boards. It's purely a municipal function. So what we'll have to do is, you know, take a look at the ordinance. If I'm going to be here perhaps next Tuesday for something else, as you know, maybe we can put that on.
One of the issues that was brought up, and the email came to you and myself, I believe, from Senator Weinberg and from Assemblyman Gordon Johnson, was of a landlord who was charging each tenant $100 per window air conditioner extra per month.
That's illegal.
And I don't know if that's legal or not, but it's in the according to them, it's in the contract. They admit it's in the contract.
right, but I looked at their contract and it didn't show any fee in there. So I wonder, you know, normally you're not allowed to add fees into it. If there's a fee associated with it, that should have been identified in the agreement. I'm not an attorney, but
Right.
I would make that assumption that if you leave it
Well-
blank in the beginning, unless there's an amendment to it, you really can't tack that on or add that on later. So in either case.
And my experience is that if you have rent control, you know, you're not allowed to come up with creative fees to get around the
Exactly.
requirements of rent control.
Well, that's why, this situation is, it's on, it's not, it's out there on the radar that we need to look into this particular case and see what's going on there. And if that's the case, make them stop doing it, because,
Like I said, I've got some meetings with Ted next Tuesday, and maybe we can sit down and go over this so that we can report back to you for the
All
next
right.
meeting.
From what I remember, what was strange about this board was, and why people kind of just fell apart in the board, was that they didn't meet regularly. They only convened when there were complaints. So if there were no complaints, that was their only role. So like when complaints were issued, they would convene and have a meeting, and then people kind of got out of touch and kind of stopped participating, because people weren't coming in and complaining, I suppose. But especially now, with all the rental units that are going to be coming into Main Street, it probably would be more important than ever that we get something that maybe meets regularly. I'm not even saying they have to meet every
Well-
month, but somehow that you keep us engaged in the process, and if we're going to redefine it.
that's another great point, because, and we don't want to stop competition between developers on Main Street. The rehab zone is set up a certain way. It's totally separate than the rest of the city on how we get paid through rents and everything else. So we probably would not be wise to prohibit rents.
Because as
On
the
Main
city develops, especially in the downtown, the rents, we expect that those rents are going to increase. So I don't know how you handle all that. I guess we'll need legal advice about that.
Yeah, I mean, rent control is a world unto itself, as Ted noted. I mean, I have represented rent control boards before to some extent, but it is a bit of a sticky wicket. And if the board, has an attorney that purportedly could represent it, and again, I'd have to look at the makeup of it, but, that can be an independent legal entity, and if that's the case, you probably would need to appropriate some funds and have separate counsel for it. And again, it depends on the way that the board is made up and all of that, but that may be the most sensible thing to do, to have somebody who is a rent control specialist available, so if you have a complaint, it gets sorted out at that level, because as you guys know, I was the city attorney in Hoboken, which had a particularly challenging rent control ordinance, and with very few restrictions. And there were actually there's actually an attorney who went around to people and just tried to sign them up like you would, like an ambulance chaser attorney, to sign people up and say, hey, did you know you might have been overcharged 10 years ago and there was no statute of limitations on it? And the city spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of litigating it. And I'm hopeful that you do things a
We don't
little
wanna go
better
down
here.
that path, yeah.
But what we need to do is analyze the ordinance, see where it stands. As you know, we're both fairly new, and rent control hasn't come up to us at this point. But, once we look at it, we be in a better position to give you some advice if the board needs separate counsel, if it needs to meet a certain number of times, and what issues may arise from the ordinance. So.
And especially with the redevelopment, I think we need
Yeah.
to analyze, what our expectation, maybe look at how other cities handled it. Where, when you're starting out, and then in a couple of years, when it's really in full force, that things are gonna be very different, and those increases might not, or shouldn't have to be
Well,
falling under that.
what normally happens in rent control is so for example, if you've got a new unit that's being built, it's coming on for the first time, there's no rent control. You establish what's known as a base rent, right? So if it's $3,000 a month, which some of these units, 2-bedroom, could be, at that kind of level, whatever it is, that's the base rent. And then once you establish that, then it has to go up within specified parameters. That's traditionally how rent control ordinances work. Again, without speaking to Hackensack's particularly, you go up a certain point, every year, generally based somewhere around the rate of inflation. And there's sometimes, if you have special circumstances, one of the things a rent board generally does is they will, hear it. So for example, if you have an argument that because of some unique circumstances, you're losing money, you made a reasonable investment, but for bad luck, something happened on the property that required substantial repairs that you weren't expecting, that you can go to a rent board and get some relief. So, I'm assuming it will be something along those lines, but we'll check it out and, give you a full report on
You
it.
can get an advice from leukemia, how he handled his problems.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to point out is that I have the list of the group that was formerly on the board, and all their terms ended in 2014 and 15, to include the attorney. So one of the things that I'm going to do is instruct that we send letters out to these people and see if any of them from the past at least either come back on the board or transition as alternates till we get some institutional knowledge here from the past, and we can work forward towards that.
I would also put it on the website.
With that paperwork, there should have been citizen leadership forms of at least 4 people that were interested.
Right, I have those here.
Okay.
But I'm just saying if
Because
we
it was on the
can,
website, and we did get them, but
We didn't move
But they
forward.
have to meet this criteria too, like who's a
Yeah.
landlord, who's
Yeah,
a
we're gonna
tenant.
have to-
one of them is somebody that was on the board already. Elson, maybe?
Okay.
Was it Elson?
yes, Deborah
Telson?
Telson
Okay,
was under.
was already on.
Okay.
All right, number 2.
Number 2 is the council meeting schedule for 2018. There are, it's pretty much straightforward, but I do make this suggestion that the council, especially for the COW meeting, since we seem to be much more work session and these are starting to grow in the length of time that we do this, would the mayor and council ever consider starting at 6 instead of 6:30 for the simple fact that it would provide a half hour to get us, because what happens now is we have issues to discuss at the COW meeting, then we have to get to the closed session, and then we run out of time, and that, because now we gotta come out at 8 o'clock for the regular meeting. I'm thinking that maybe that half hour would buy us enough time to get started early, still provide enough ample time for closed session, since we seem to have a pretty full plate of those also, and then start the regular council meeting at 8 o'clock. I know that a half hour for some people, some of us are here for the long haul, so for selfish reasons, starting early doesn't hurt my feelings any, but for council members to get here, it might be helpful if we started just a half hour early. The only other issue that came up was that we had a complaint last year. Meetings will be Monday due to the summer concert. On Tuesday, there's some asterisks in there, but Hanukkah starts on 12/2 and ends on 12/10. We had a complaint for someone says we had meeting during the week of Hanukkah. If you don't have a meeting during Hanukkah, your meeting will be 12/18.
You don't even
I'm
want
sorry,
to. Well, if you didn't,
right, go ahead, correct it.
if you didn't do, hang on, the Hanukkah, we couldn't meet until like the 18th, so you'd only wind up with one meeting for December because Christmas is Tuesday, the 25th.
But now you just have one on here for December 11th, right?
That's what I have for right now.
And Hanukkah's over on the
Because
10th.
Hanukkah starts on 12/2 and ends on 12/10. So if you did the normal, it would have been the 11th and the 25th. But obviously, you can't do Christmas, but and then you can't even do for the 4th and the 18th because the 4th is Hanukkah. So
Right.
the only thing you're kind of left with is the 11th or the 18th for just one meeting.
I'm also seeing November has one meeting.
Yes, because of the league and election
We've
day.
always done the one in November.
Because election day is the 6th, and the
Well, even
league
if,
is the
I'd like to squeeze
13th.
2 into December, even if they're a week apart, just to make sure business at the end of the year is taken care of.
Like, we used to, a lot of times, if you need it, we used to do a special meeting on like the 30th, like if we
Yeah.
needed to financially
you
close
could-
things up, but it was only if we needed to. Like if Jim
Can do
needed,
that.
You
know,
could
where
do
they
it on the
do,
28th, like that Friday, the 28th during the day if need be. as
There
a
are many
special
people
meeting.
travel the 28th because they want to spend the end of the year
but
someplace else.
I wouldn't commit to it. I would just leave that open for us to add as a special meeting, which we've done in
Yeah.
the past. If Jim says, he has to do, some of the budget transfers and get it in before the end of the year, we've done that.
Well, you only need 48 hours, so.
Right.
You could leave what I scheduled for the 11th, and
That's
then
what I
that
would
leaves
do.
you that entire week, like if you needed to do a special meeting that week before Christmas, you could do it the week before Christmas,
I
whereas
think
the
it's
week after
more that
Christmas,
it's gonna
people-
be between Christmas and New, it's more gonna be the end of the month if we have to do something financial by the end of the year.
Right.
That's what, in the past, we didn't do it every time, but we've done that a couple of times.
Exactly.
And then I wouldn't commit to it, I would just know amongst ourselves, if we have to do it, we'll do it,
That's
right?
it.
But do the other dates look all right? Because we moved the meetings in the summer for the summer concerts to Monday
So July and
for
August,
July,
or
and then.
just
in-
July?
Just
one.
July, and then August, we went back to Tuesday because we were only doing one meeting in July and one full night
Gotcha.
in August. And then I don't know, is there anything else that looks,
You might want to keep August on a Monday night. I'll tell you why, because you get one rain date, you're pushing into that date.
well, I pushed it late because normally the concerts end with National Night Out, right? That's
Right.
usually the last concert. National Night Out is the 7th. I
That leaves
put
us,
the
as
meeting as the 21st, so there's another
Gotcha.
Okay.
week in between.
long as it's, yeah, as long as it's not, right after the week that could be
Yeah,
rain,
no,
or if we
I
have rainouts.
left it with a week in between, just in case the concert got switched.
And September 4th, that's not Labor Day? Oh, Labor Day is right before it, I guess, the 3rd, right?
September,
4th.
Labor Day is September 3rd.
Okay.
I also tried not to do them after holiday, because I know sometimes people are away, but that's the only one, because you had Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur in there.
That's the problem in September, too.
So I
Right.
had to, I had like 5 million copies all over the place, trying to figure this out.
Okay, next.
Okay.
I mean, I'm talking to your suggestion, I'm all right with 6 o'clock. I could do
Yeah,
it.
you're right.
I'm good with
Okay.
6. You good with 6?
6, yeah.
Steph? How
Why don't we,
Okay,
at least,
6?
we'll try it and see how it goes.
about our attorney? He's
Is
got
that
the
okay,
traveling.
Steve? We were suggesting 6 instead of 6:30 for next year, because we're running too short.
I mean, that's up to you. It's your.
You can get here?
Your
No problem.
convenience, yeah. I mean, whenever you guys want to start, we can start.
Why don't we
Okay.
take Ted's suggestion, Ted?
Okay, I just,
Those are changes.
because I think starting early, going into a regular meeting and going back into close,
At the end,
it
yeah.
makes our good friend Bob sit here for
Yeah,
a period of time here.
and then we're here really late, so
Yeah,
I
and then
I
we're
like,
here
I
late.
like this
You know,
plan better.
It makes, and look, as we've talked about many times before, if it turns out you try and it doesn't work, we can always go back and just renotice the meeting.
Now, do you have to
So,
make any resolutions, anything?
I mean, if you're gonna, we are going to adopt if we're, when,
Not, I don't
not
have
to-
it ready for tonight, it'll be
Right.
for the November meeting.
Right.
so there would be a
Put it in the
resolution,
newspaper.
because you have to have an annual meeting notice and it has to be posted and certain
We'll
people
change
have
the
to get it
times
and,
then, if that's okay.
That sounds good.
Okay,
Good
thank you.
idea.
Number 3 is the mutual aid plan rapid deployment force resolution. These come essentially every year, and it's basically for law enforcement emergency purposes, whereas law enforcement officials are also responsible to provide preparedness against natural emergencies such as floods, hurricanes, earthquakes, major storms, man-made causes, civil unrest, civil disobedience such as riot strikes, jail or prison riots, train wrecks, aircraft crashes, major fires, ethnic disorders, riots, terrorist incidents, bombing, state, national. You gotta love this. In either case, we sign this mutual aid agreement, so if we have a problem, they'll come help us and we'll go help
Okay.
them.
Yeah.
It's for Bergen County.
Works
We
for me.
always do this.
Yep. That's fine.
And my last is an update on the discussion of the City of Hackensack Salt Dome. We obviously have an alternate plan. We also had a meeting with Bergen County to discuss having a shared services with them. I called the Julian Niles, the
Attorney.
attorney for the city of, for the county of Bergen. He's away on vacation, so I spoke to Mr.
Mark Shrieks, right?
Right, and discussed this, and he said that they had requested our salt usage, so we had sent all of that information to them. So I asked where we at in the process, because obviously I have some irons in the fire here that I need to address. And he said, well, we're processing that. And I said, well, could you give us some idea when you might make a decision? And he goes, well, it clearly won't be done in 2018, and we might have an answer for you in the spring of 2018. So candidly, I'm not overwhelmed with the enthusiasm for a response anytime soon, but maybe we'll get one.
I think we have to maybe just ask for a second. You never, when you met, you didn't really
Well,
meet
see-
with the county executive anyway, so maybe we need to have him in the room. Because right now, number one, they're salting all the county roads that are in Hackensack, because that was, something they wanted to do. So they're already doing that. And we clean all of the county roads when we
15 miles street sweep.
Right, so we do that all year long for them. So I think that they owe us something for all of the work we do, and they are already doing the county, how many miles?
16.
Okay, so they're already supposedly doing that as far as salting.
No, we provide 16 miles of street sweeping for them.
Street sweeping.
And they salt the county roads.
Right, I'm trying to find out how many miles in the city are county roads, do we know that?
To my knowledge, 16.
16, okay, so that's what I'm saying, so right now, they're doing 16 of our streets anyway with salt, right? They started that last year, remember, John? So last year was the first year that they did that was new. So they're already doing that, so then maybe we could take it to the next
Sometimes in
level.
emergency basis, sometimes the city has to step. to-
Right.
Yeah,
So I'll reach out to them again for a follow-up conversation.
Yeah,
because
let's,
The
but
time
Leo,
to
you remember, excuse me, but you remember this, didn't they used to give us salt or do something for us? So we used to have some type of arrangement with them.
That was the deal that Jesse, the mother, used to try with the county. But in 2013, I went to the county and I told them, we are doing this for you guys. And they were willing to pay at least $6,000-7,000 and they top what they were doing. But then, that guy disappeared and then everything went through the window.
Yeah, so we have to
So they
remind them of
understand.
those prior agreements as well, I think.
They were willing to give you a street sweeper machine and a bunch of stuff.
Got it.
yeah, it's kind of odd that the municipalities
Yes. That would
taking care of the
complete,
county.
that would complete the city manager's report.
Thank you. With that, I need a motion to open to the public.
Offer.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Von Rudenberg. Aye. Deputy Mayor Canestrino.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Sims.
Aye.
Councilmember Pataglia.
Aye.
Mayor LaBrus.
Aye. With that, anybody who would like to speak, please come forward, give your name and address to the clerk. You will have 3 minutes. Started today.
You got 2.5 already.
Good evening, Kathleen Sauer, Lotus Street, Hackensack. It's so funny because today I stopped for the light on Kansas Street and I looked where the county has their beautiful salt shed, and I said, "Gee, what happened to shared services? Why couldn't we put our shed next to their shed and do this?" You need to talk to. You have to go past Mark Street 'cause you need to go talk to the county executive on this.
We had a meeting scheduled, but unfortunately he had a family emergency and he wasn't able to make that.
Okay, because
We're gonna
first of all,
reschedule that.
Let's go with the street sweeping. Street sweeping is 12 months a year. We sweep their streets 12 months a year. So when it snows, it's however snowstorms we get. So we started doing them, or let them do them last year. I think it was an insurance technicalities. That's why we did it. But we need a place for our salt, and I have another place in mind. But that whole area where they were going to put the homeless shelter, they decided to move it back and put it back further, and it's all empty, and it's non-rateable, and all they have on it now is a salt shed. So why can't we put our shed
what we're
next
trying
to
to
their
do.
shed, and our salt and their salt, so we don't get it mixed up?
That's exactly
and
what
just
we're
do it.
trying
But
to
you
do,
need to
Kat.
talk. You want me to go? We need to talk to the right people, and I think we could do this. It's called shared services, and they're the ones that say we should share services. So what we do for them, plus all the people that come in that we take care of every day, we're the county seat. We need to get a little more than what they're giving us. You need to bargain a little harder.
I agree with them, and I would like for you to go get them.
I will get them. You want me to go?
Go.
I know who to talk to. I would like to go with our city
Go.
manager.
Do me a favor, go.
I really would.
Appreciate it, thanks. Next, please. Is there anybody here from Hackensack Hospital? Nobody's here from Hackensack Hospital yet, right? Because I know we have a proclamation for them later. I just wanted to make sure they weren't at this one.
No, I think we told them the 8 o'clock one.
Okay, seeing nobody else, motion to close to the public.
Offer.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Von Rudenberg. Aye. Deputy Mayor Canestrino.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Sims.
Aye.
Councilmember Pataglia.
Aye.
Mayor LaBrus.
Aye. Need a motion to go into closed session?
Offer.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Von Rudenberg. Aye. Deputy Mayor Canestrino.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Sims.
Aye.
Councilmember Pataglia.
Aye.
Mayor LaBrus.
Aye.
Whereas the mayor and council of the city of Hackensack deem it necessary to discuss certain actions under section 7B7 and 7B8 of the Open Public Meetings Act which pertains to matters falling within attorney-client privilege and ongoing litigation and personnel matters concerning the employment of a current or prospective public employee. Whereas the mayor and council of the city of Hackensack is of the opinion that such circumstances may presently exist, and whereas the mayor and council wishes to discuss the following issues: personnel matters, ongoing litigations, matters involving attorney-client privilege, matters involving the purchase, lease, or acquisition of real property, any pending or anticipated litigation or contract negotiations. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and council of the city of Hackensack deem it necessary to exclude the public from this discussion. The outcome of the discussion will be disclosed within 90 days, or at such times as the interests of the city do not require confidentiality.
Very good.
Steve, you have anything?
I do. We have 3 cases from my end that need to be brought up: Malvasia, Greenman, and Heck.
Anything employee-wise? No employee stuff. All right, we'll see everybody at 8 o'clock. Thank you.